We are working on our 4-year-old class in the Nigerian ring. That 4-year-old class sponsor is Hidden Hills Nigerians, Jennifer Davis. And as we're working through those and final placements, we are beginning our Togg show in ring 1. This first class of milking yearlings is sponsored by Dry Creek Acre Toggenburg's Melissa O'Rourke and Joe Scott.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2023 ADGA National Toggenburg Senior Show. We're starting off with our yearling milkers here. This first doe just comes to the line pretty easily. And let me backtrack just a second and give our udder placings first. Udders in this class are 1, 2, and 3. In the mammary system, the first doe over the second doe, it is for the overall height and width and security of that rear udder, the length and extension and fullness of that forudder, the balance and symmetry of that mammary system, both when viewed from the side and from the rear, in combination with the more cleanly placed teats on the udder floor, more perpendicular to the ground when viewed from behind than we see in 2. The second place doe with that second place mammary over our third place doe with the third mammary, just for the overall capacity and balance when viewed from the side, the length and fullness of forudder, the smoothness and blending of that forudder, the height and width and uniform width from the top of the udder to the udder floor that we're seeing comparatively to 3. Then in the class placing 1 over 2, it is again for that mammary system, the height and width, security of that mammary system, the overall shape, balance, and dimension. And then when we look at her in general appearance, she just more has greater length and strength of back and top line. She has a longer, wider rump, a longer, wider loin. She's also a doe that's a little more smoothly blended in the front end assembly, both from the neck into the top of the shoulder and at the front of the point of shoulder. She's a little stronger in her strength and substance of bone than we see in 2 as well. 2 then over 3 for the advantage again in that mammary system with the height and width of that rear udder, the overall capacity and balance of that mammary system relative to the size of the goat. And then in dairy strength, having a little bit longer, leaner, cleaner neck, a little bit freer from excess fleshing, especially when we get back into the cleanliness of the flank and thigh over we see in 3. 3 then over 4 for her advantage now in mammary system, just so much more capacity and fullness to the rear udder today, more overall dimension to that mammary system when viewed from behind. When we look at her in general appearance, she's a little smoother blended from that loin into the rump, and a little more pleasing slope to rump, both at rest and on the move. And then in body capacity, she's wider in the chest floor, and she carries much more increasing depth and spring of rib than we see in 4. 4 then over 5, a decided advantage in general appearance. She's more upstanding in the front end assembly. She's much more correct across the back and top line today in the rump, more pleasing slope to rump with a wider rump both from hip to pin and thurl to thurl than we're seeing in 5. In combination with her mammary system, just having more overall security to the mammary system today, especially as it ties into the body junction, she will certainly yield to the capacity of that rear udder. It is for the capacity, the height and width of rear udder, that 5 places over 6, in combination with having just more capacity to the mammary system when viewed from the side as well. And then in general appearance, she's a little stronger in front end assembly with front shoulders that are held a little tighter against the body wall, and she travels more uphill as she's walking about the ring. This 6th place doe, we certainly commend for the depth and spring of rib that she has, and we commend her for that today.
Toggenburg show is underway. That milking yearling class, as I said, was sponsored by Dry Creek Acres Toggenburg, Melissa O'Rourke and Joe Skoda. Placings in our yearling milker class, Rose Fathom Filigree was first place, first udder, Dr. Joan Dero, exhibitor. Second place and second udder went to Evie's Killer Labyrinth, Evie Harry. Third place and third udder was Rose Fathom Filigree, Dr. Joan Dero, exhibitor. Fourth place, Harmony Jackpot, Maggie's Lily from Harmony Alpines. Fifth place was Moss Ridge Wintengelente, Tracy Jones, exhibitor. And sixth place was Moss Ridge Wintengelato, Tracy Jones, exhibitor. As we move on, we're moving to our 2-year-old class. The 2-year-old and 3-year-old class are both sponsored by Krohn's Toggenburgs. Thank you for that sponsorship.
another exciting class of Nigerian dwarf does. As we move up through here, our age groups here really like seeing the additional maturity in the mammary systems and the productivity on these does. The udder placings are 1, 4, and 2. And so the first udder over our fourth doe is our second udder. Just a little bit more length in the forudder today, a little bit more correct shape, a little bit more width when viewed from the rear, especially at the top of the mammary system. Beautiful soft texture to the mammary system here on 4. Placing over our second doe, which is our third place udder. It's more correctly shaped when viewed from the rear, wider at the top, just more uniform in width down the mammary system. The teats are placed more correctly under the udder floor, and the texture is a little softer today, but a lovely mammary system here in our second doe, who's our third place udder. And then here in the class today, 1/2 for those strengths in mammary system combined with strengths in general appearance. She's just a little more naturally correct there in her front end as she moves around the ring today, just walking out a little bit more level and correct. The second doe has been kind of fighting here. The whole class not doing ourselves any favor, but we have tried to really look at her and evaluate her on the move and, at rest, and to get a fair evaluation, even though she's not cooperating well. Really love the length of body on this doe. She's placing over 3 for the additional length and levelness across the top line. The difference in shape and slope of rump in the mammary system. She's more correct in the length of forudder and fullness of forudder, and then more correct in her turn in her forelegs and the placement of the forelegs and straightness of foreleg under the body. And then 3/4. An advantage in her turn. In general appearance, we just prefer this doe as she moves out a little bit higher headed, a little bit more gracefully around the ring, a little bit more in her front end assembly and the smoothness of blending of the shoulder today. But a beautiful dairy angular doe here in 4, who is our second place udder, placing over 5 for the strength in mammary system, a little bit more correct when viewed from the rear and from the side in the shape of mammary system. And she does have additional length, width, and depth over the 5th place doe. But a lovely dairy open flat bone doe in 5, placing over 6. She's, for those reasons, sharpness at the withers, just openness throughout, a little cleaner profile in this doe. And then in the mammary system, when viewed from the side, it's more correct in shape and a little bit more height of rear udder as well. And 6, placing over 7, advantage today in body capacity. Again, just being a longer, deeper, wider doe, a little bit more powerful kind of doe. She's longer in her rump. But we like the side profile in the 7th place doe in the mammary system, the balance of mammary system, and her dairy strength throughout. She's flat boned and clean and feminine. Placing over the 8th place doe, having additional depth of body and an advantage in shape and mammary system when viewed from the side and from the rear. And then 8/9 for an advantage in mammary system and height and fullness of rear udder, and then just in her flatness of bone and cleanness throughout today. Really powerful doe though in our 9th place doe, placing over 10, carrying much more capacity in the mammary system in relation to her size today, a fuller mammary system as well. 10, placing over 11. An advantage in strength and general appearance and strength across the top line, a little bit more correct in her front end assembly. 11, placing over 12, a closer placing here, but an advantage in mammary system, an advantage in smoothness of blending throughout as well. 12/13 for the shape of mammary system when viewed from the side and from the rear. She's fuller up into the rear udder than the 13th place doe. 13/14 for body capacity. Again, just a longer, deeper, wider doe. And then in general appearance, she's longer in the rump and a little more correct in the 4 pasterns than 14. 14/15 for her dairy strength and femininity, a beautiful feminine dairy doe in 14. 15/16, an advantage in mammary system and height of rear udder, strength of medial suspensory ligament, just a little bit more feminine kind of doe in 15/16. 16/17, an advantage again in mammary system and height and fullness of rear udder, just a slightly more upstanding doe with a higher headed walk as she travels out around the ring. And then 17/18, she's more naturally level across her top line through the loin and rump, and has a mammary system with a stronger medial suspensory ligament that's fuller up higher into the rear udder. But we really appreciate the productivity and capacity in the mammary system on both 18 and 19. Not quite as strong in general appearance, but lovely productive does here out of a much larger class, and they're more correct than our 20th place doe in the shape of mammary system, especially when viewed from the rear. But 20 is real feminine and dairy and angular, and we'd like to commend her for that.
As we continue on, we just finished with the 4-year-old class and the Nigerians looking for the 5 and 6-year-olds to come in. We are on the 2-year-old Toggenburg class right now. And on a side note, another mystery here in Redmond, our photographer Bob Bartholomew's pet pigs. Those were squeaky pigs. They either flew the coop last night or some child picked them up. He would like his pet pigs returned, if at all possible, to the photo booth sometime today. Thank you. All right, results are in on our 4-year-old milking class for Nigerians. First place and first udder goes to Urban Acres Snow White. That's Donna and Jenna Williams. Second place with third udder is Hidden Hills Natural Mystic, Renee Wolf, exhibitor. Third place goes to Aragon's Mud Pie. That would be the Duong family. Our fourth place doe, second place udder, is Daylight SB Dream Catcher, Nancy Bowling, exhibitor. Fifth place, Castle Rock Lenticular Cloud, Sarah Hawkins, exhibitor. Sixth place in your Nigerian 4-year-old milker class goes to Leisure Time Set Fire to the Rain, Christine Struve-Hagen, exhibitor. Seventh place, Heaven's Hollow Edge of Love, Jill Womble. Eighth place in your first place youth is Hetland Creek GQ Highly-Kala, Samantha Milbreck, exhibitor. Ninth place in your 4-year-old milker class is We Three Farms D Rosemary, Sonia Tyson, exhibitor. 10th place, Wolf Van Tootsie Roll, Sandra Amores. 11th place, Quaking Canopy, Jackie Kennedy, Amanda Weber, exhibitor. 12th place, Castle Rock, Flopsy Lopsy, Amanda Weber, exhibitor. 13th place, Highland Ranch AD, Rain E. Day, Samantha Milbreck, exhibitor. 14th place, Tall and Small Party Crasher, Lori Stutz, exhibitor. 15th, Castle Rock Dementor, Sarah Hawkins, your exhibitor. 16th place and the second place youth, C.A. Blackberry's Heaven to Betsy. That would have been Belle Duong. 17th place, Springwater A.L. Aspen, Priya Tuval. 18th place, Hanson Hideaway, M.M. Fun Dip, Amanda Hanson, exhibitor. 19th place was Rainy Rock AG Splenda, Angela Foster, your exhibitor. And your 20th place in that 4-year-old milker class for Nigerian dwarfs was Flower Lion Farm, AOI, Milky Way, Cleary Berlin, your exhibitor. Again, thank you to Hidden Hills Nigerians for that 4-year-old sponsorship, and they are also our 5- and 6-year-old sponsor.
All right, so these are our Toggenburg 2-year-old does coming into line here. A really nice group of does from the top of the line all the way down to 17 out here. The udder placings in this class are 1, 2, and 3. In the mammary system, the first doe excels the second doe in the overall smoothness of blending of that rear udder into the body wall, a little bit more pleasing shape when viewed from the side, a little bit longer and fuller forudder, the capacity and the width of forudder underneath the udder, or underneath the body cavity than we see in 2. 2 then over 3 for the advantage that she has now in height and width of rear udder, the security of that rear udder, the overall area of attachment, especially when we get into the lateral attachment, and then the length and extension and fullness of forudder as a matter of degree, 2 over 3. In combination with more appropriate size, shape, and delineation of teat on the udder floor. The third place doe over the remaining udders just for that capacity and width of rear udder and the ease of motion around that rear udder. Then in the class placing, 1 over 2, it is again for that mammary system, the overall smoothness of blending of the rear udder into the body wall, the width and fullness of that forudder, the overall shape of that mammary system as it sits onto the body of the goat. And then in general appearance, she's a more naturally high-headed, a little bit more upstanding and uphill as she's walking about the ring. She's smoother blended from that loin into the rump. She is flatter in the rump, especially from thurl to thurl than we're seeing in 2. 2 then over 3 for the advantage that she has in dairy strength. She's longer and leaner of neck. She's a bit more sharp and angulated in the front end of the goat. She has more depth and angulation and spring of rib. And then again in that mammary system, the overall shape and capacity, the balance and symmetry of it when viewed from the side compared to 3. 3 over 4 for the advantage that she has now in her turn and mammary system, particularly when we had this doe walk away, both of these 2 does. There's just so much more height and width of that rear udder and maintaining the capacity and fullness of that rear udder from the top of the udder to the udder floor, and a little more ease of motion around that rear udder than we're seeing in 4. Then in body capacity, we see a clear advantage here in width of chest, and depth into the rear barrel comparatively to 4. 4 over 5 for the advantage that she has first in that mammary system, just so much more capacity when viewed from the side and from the rear. We see a longer and fuller forudder. We see greater height and width of rear udder. And then in dairy strength, we see a doe that has more flatness of bone, more looseness and pliability of skin. She's a little cleaner and highly arched up into the flank and cleaner in the area of the thigh than 5. 5 over 6, it is for general appearance. She's a doe that's stronger in that front end assembly with less movement at the top of the shoulder, additionally stronger in the area of the chine and loin, a little smoother blended from that loin into the rump, more pleasing slope to rump, both at rest and on the move. And then in the mammary system, we see a more pleasing shape of that mammary system, less tendency to tilt forward on the body cavity than 6. 6 over 7 for the advantage that she has now in her turn in mammary system. There's so much more capacity and balance relative to the size of the goat. We see greater length and fullness of that forudder, more appropriate teat placement, both when viewed from the side and from the rear. And then in combination, she has the advantage here in dairy strength, just so much more length and stretch of neck. She's sharper in those withers. She's a little stronger in her general appearance with more pleasing angle to those rear legs and a stronger back and top line, particularly the area of the rump than we're seeing in 7. 7 over 8 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. She's stronger in front end assembly, being more smoothly blended from the top of the neck into the shoulder, fuller at the crops, and she's a little more naturally level across that back and loin when we see them on the move. And then when we look at her in body capacity, again, a doe that's wider in the chest, she carries more depth of chest than we're seeing in 8, though she certainly yields to this tremendous capacity and productivity in 8. It is for that capacity and productivity of the mammary system that 8 places over 9, in combination with the width of that rear udder, the length and fullness and stretch of that forudder. And then when we look at her in dairy strength, we can see just the looseness and pliability of skin, the angle and flatness of rib, the depth and spring of rib that she has over 9. 9 over 10 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. A much more smoothly blended doe from neck down into shoulder. She blends more smoothly from the shoulder back into the area of the chine, and then she's stronger and wider in the area of the loin than we're seeing in 10. And then in combination, having more depth and spring of rib and greater strength and substance of bone in that dairy strength as well. 10 then over 11 for the advantage that she has in mammary system, especially overall area of attachment. You can go ahead and move this animal up. The overall area of attachment, especially that lateral attachment, and a more pleasing placement of the teat on the udder floor when viewed from the side. 11 over 12, it is for the productivity of this mammary system, especially the balance and symmetry relative to the size of the goat. And then in dairy strength, we see an individual that's just much more clean and dairy, more angular throughout. 12 then over 13 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. She's more smoothly blended at the point of shoulder with a stronger chest and front end assembly. We have more pleasing angle of rear legs, both when viewed from the side and she walks away from you. And then in body capacity, definitely a deeper and wider individual, though again, granting some to that capacity of that mammary system. And again, it is that capacity of mammary system, height and width of rear, more pleasing medial suspensory ligament and division of the utter halves, that 13 places over 14, 14 over 15 now in her turn in general appearance. She's more smoothly blended from neck down into shoulder. She has a stronger back when on the move and stronger rear legs and more angulated rear legs with stronger passings than we're seeing in 15. 15 over 16 for the advantage that she has now in her turn in general appearance, with a longer bone pattern throughout, a longer loin, a longer rump, a wider rump than we're seeing in 16. And then 16 over 17, now in her turn in general appearance, much more correctly angulated on those rear legs with less tendency to go straight down into the area of the stifle and hock, and a doe that walks with more ease of motion around that mammary system. The 17th doe we certainly commend for this extreme productivity and capacity that she has in that mammary system. Thank you.
These are 5- and 6-year-old milkers, and we've pulled out 20 does then into the center, and we'll continue to work with longer. Again, these are does that are mature, so really looking for capacity in the mammary systems, looking for strengths here in general appearance, still strong feet and legs, good structure throughout. We feel we have that here in our group in the center with these 20, so we'll continue to work with them. And thank you so much for bringing these does in.
2-year-old Toggenburg class here today again was sponsored by Chrome's Toggenburgs. Our first place and first udder goes to Moss Ridge Cowles Javana. Second place, second udder, Rose Raven Fluster, Dr. Joan D. Rowe. Our third place and third udder, Rose Francis Romana, Dr. Joan D. Rowe. And in fourth place, Rose Romano Fiona the fourth, Dr. Joan D. Rowe. Fifth place, Moss Ridge Cowles Jury, Tracy Jones. Sixth place goes to Evie's Psycho Riffraff, Evelyn Harry. Seventh place in her 2-year-old Toggenburg Milker class goes to Rose Francis Summer Rose, Joseph Albrecht. Eighth place in our first place youth in this division goes to Josie's Blossoms Chattel Shan, Casey Roberts. Ninth place goes to Moss Ridge Cowles Twyla, Kate Chapman. 10th place, Gladdy Acres, Cal Genesis, Miranda Mathia Amstad. Our 11th place goes to Rose Francis Rye, Joshua Albrecht, exhibitor. 12th place, Gladdy Acres, Cal Jenna, Tracy Jones. 13th place, Riverwind Natalie, is Jan Edwards. 14th place goes to Moss Ridge Cowles Jacelyn, Leroy and Janet Satter. Right. Cadence KRR on a happier note, Jen Tariba. 16th place, Gladdy Acres, Cal Jonesy, and Miranda Mathia Amstutz. And 17th place, Riverwind Nellie, Jan Edwards.
Right, these are our Toggenburg 3-year-old does in line here. We had 7 really nice individuals out here representing the 3-year-old class. Udder placings in this class are 1, 2, and 3. In the udder placing, the first doe over the second doe, just for more overall area of attachment, more height and width, more smoothly blended rear udder, a greater length and extension of forudder, and more appropriate teat placement on the udder floor when viewed from behind. 2 then over 3, just more overall capacity to that mammary system, especially the height and width of rear udder, the length and extension of forudder, the fullness of that forudder as we're comparing it to 3. And then 3 over the balance of the class, again, for that width of rear, the overall capacity and balance in relation to the size of the goat comparatively to the 4 does standing behind her. In the class placing, 1 over 2, for the advantage that she has, again, in that mammary system, just more overall area of attachment, especially the smoothest of blending of that rear end attachment into the body wall, the overall shape and dimension of this mammary system, and the teat placement when viewed from the rear. And then in general appearance, a decided advantage in smoothest of blending from neck down into shoulder, the length and strength of both the chine and loin in her back, and then in rump, a cleaner rump, especially when we look at the length of rump from hip to pin, the width of rump from hip to pin, and then we look at the width and flatness from thurl to thurl as well. 2 over 3, again, it is that mammary system, the overall capacity and productivity, the height and width of rear udder, the length and extension of that forudder, the fullness of forudder, and then when we look at her in body capacity, just so much more depth of body, spring of rib. In dairy strength, she's a little longer and leaner of neck. She has more flatness of bone, again, more spring and angle to that rear rib than we're seeing in 3. 3 over 4, this is the closest placing in the class. We went back and forth between these two, but we just have so much more capacity to that mammary system, more height and width of rear udder, more length, extension, fullness, and width of forudder on the udder floor. And then in dairy strength, she's longer and leaner of neck. She's flatter in bone. She's more cleanly arched in the areas of the flank and thigh than we see in 4. 4 over 5 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. She's a lot stronger in the area of the back and loin. When we look at her in the smoothest of blending from the loin into that rump, particularly the more pleasing slope to rump from hip to pin. And then when we see her, she's more upstanding in that front end assembly, and she's more uphill to the withers as she's traveling around the ring and at rest. 5 over 6 for the advantage that she has now in her turn in mammary system. There's so much more capacity to that rear udder when you get behind this mammary system, more fullness of the forudder, more smoothly blended forudder attachment into the body wall. And then in general appearance, she's more correct in those feet and legs, particularly the angulation and usage of those rear legs, a little stronger on the rear pasterns today than 6. 6 over 7 for the advantage that she has now in her turn in mammary system. While yielding to the capacity and productivity, we just see so much more correctness as far as the overall area of attachment, the shape, delineation, and placement of the teats on the udder floor, and then in general appearance a doe that's longer across the back. She's having more tightness at the point of elbow. She tracks straighter on those forelegs, both when viewed from the side and as she walks towards you. Again, commending the 7th place doe for that productivity and capacity to mammary system today. Thank you.
And our 3-year-old placing here, or our placings in our 3-year-old milking class. First place, first udder goes to Rouse Fusion Faithful, Dr. Joan D. Rao. Second place, second udder goes to Rouse Fusion Finola, Dr. Joan D. Rao. Third place, third udder, Evie's Tsunami Stayhaken. Evelyn Harry. Fourth place, Jonas Akers Piquette, Sonia Tyson. Joshua Farm Rosetta, Joshua Albrecht. Sixth place goes to Falcon Farms Kalua, Patrina Buckeye. Seventh place goes to River Wind Sweet Magdalena, Jan Edwards. Congratulations to those in our 3-year-old Toggenburg class. That class was sponsored by Chrome's Toggenburgs. We now have our 4-year-olds coming into the ring. Our 4-year-old class sponsored by Ian Tires.
These are 5 and 6-year-old Nigerian dwarf does, and a lot of differences here as we move down the line, just different types and styles of does, so just trying to sort this out a little bit. But our first udder is on our first doe. The udder placings are 1, 2, and 3. The first doe, just tremendous mammary system here. She has the length of forudder, the width of rear udder, just a much fuller forudder, much more arch and width in the rear udder. Capacity today over the second place doe. So big difference in size of the mammary system here in relation to the size of the animal. The second udder over the third udder. It's more smoothly blended in the rear udder. When viewed from the side, it's just a little more correct in the way it sits beneath the doe. Really like the capacity though and the length of forudder here in 3. Then 1 over 2 in the class. It is for the strength and mammary system. Just more apparent productivity here, more capacity in relation to the size of the animal, showing a little bit more depth in the front end and chest today. This first doe is pretty full, so she's getting a little uncomfortable out here as long as we've been out here. But the second doe over the third doe, an advantage here in body capacity. She's just deeper and wider, deeper in the chest. She has more strength and substance of bone, and then a slight advantage there in the mammary system in the rear udder. But we really love the femininity and the style on this third doe and the top line general appearance overall, placing over 4 for the strengths and general appearance across the top line, the shape and slope of rump, just that femininity and style as she moves out around the ring. And then 4 over 5, an advantage in mammary system and shape of mammary system, length and capacity in the forudder, placement of teats on the udder floor slightly. But another beautiful doe here in our 5th place doe, placing over 6, having the advantage in dairy strength. She's sharper at the withers, just leaner and cleaner throughout her body today. Really powerful doe in 6 with a tremendous rear udder, placing over 7 for the strength and mammary system, just a little more overall attachment. But the big advantage here is in body capacity. She has more spring of rib and depth of barrel, a little more extension to the brisket than I see in 7, but a lovely feminine doe in 7. Again, placing over 8. Showing an advantage in general appearance and strength of top line, just natural levelness across the top line. She has a mammary system that's a little more secure as she moves out around the ring, but really appreciate the capacity in the mammary system in 8, placing over 9 for the capacity in both the body and the mammary system. She's a little bit more deep, angular kind of doe with more fullness to mammary system today in the forudder. 9 over 10, then an advantage here in general appearance. A doe who's just a little cleaner and tighter in her front end. She walks out a little more gracefully around the ring and a little bit more correct in rear legs. But we love the 10th place doe in side profile with her correct mammary system shape with the length of forudder, just showing a little bit more correct shape of udder when viewed from the side and from the rear over 11. But lovely style and general appearance on 11. Placing over 12, she's more correct in the front end assembly with front legs that are handled a little more correctly as she moves around the ring. She has more extension to her brisket, and then walks on a sounder set of rear legs and pasterns. And then 12 over 13, an advantage in mammary system when viewed from the side for the length and capacity in the forudder today. A little bit more width of mammary system as well. 13 over 14, a more correct shape of udder. Again, in her turn, a little bit more correct teats, but like the dairiness and flatness of bone in 14, placing over 15 for an advantage in general appearance. She walks out more level across her top line, and her rump is a little more correct in shape and slope, but lovely productive does here in 15 and 16. We really appreciate the body capacity and the area of attachment to the mammary system. 15, a little stronger medial suspensory ligament and just strength of attachments over 16. 16 over 17, an udder that's more correctly shaped and viewed from the side with teats that point in a more proper direction. And then 17 over 18 for body capacity and capacity in the mammary system. 18 over 19, a mammary system that's more securely attached with more width in the rear udder. And then 19 over 20, similar does in type, just a little bit wider kind of doe, a little bit deeper in the chest, but they're real similar, both dairy angular does. And this is a class, or the top 20 here out of a much larger class. Thank you.
As we are working through, we've got our 7-year-old Nigerian class, or our age doe class, coming in ring 2. In ring 1, we're working through our Toggenburgs, and it would be time to announce our judges here. Our lead judge in ring 1 with Togg is Dr. Kurt Schnipke. He lives in Hamler, Ohio, where he raises Oberhausley Sonnens and experimentals under the Overboard herd name. He's both thrilled and honored to be selected to judge at the national show for the first time. He's also excited to be working with the other wonderful judges selected for this event. What started out as a 4-H project has become a nationally recognized and competitive herd. The highlights include breeding the 2010 and 2011 Oberhausley National Champion, as well as the 2011, 2017, and 2018 Oberhausley Reserve National Champions. But the real reward has been the friendships and acquaintances and numerous memories that he's gained throughout the years attending these prestigious shows. Kurt obtained his ADGA judging license at the 2006 ADGA convention and has been judging continuously since that time. He's enjoyed traveling the country to see different levels of competition, different management practices, and different styles of dairy goats. He's also served as an ADGA volunteer committee member with the breed standards, shows, and judges training assessment and licensing committees. Professionally, Kurt received his doctorate in physical therapy from the University of Finland and has been a licensed physical therapist for 10 years. He served mostly in outpatient setting with an emphasis in pediatric work. In 2019, he became a part-time faculty member at his alma mater, and then in 2021 became a full-time professor within the physical therapy program. Enjoys spending time with family and friends, enjoys playing indoor and beach volleyball recreationally. He's attended multiple national shows as an exhibitor, and he understands the commitment and dedication that it takes for any herd to attend this premier showcase of dairy goats, and he encourages all exhibitors to take time to enjoy the fellowship and memory-making opportunities throughout the week, and most importantly, to enjoy the process and have fun showcasing your efforts. Best of luck. Have a great show. Your head judge here in the Toggenburg today, Mr. Kurt Schnipke. I will mention that our 7 and over class in the Nigerian ring, our sponsor is Fireberg Farms, Rachel Snyder.
These are our Toggenburg 4-year-old does now. It's exciting to start seeing as we get into these more mature ages, we start to see more maturity in those bodies, more maturity in those mammary systems, while maintaining the structural soundness and correctness in these animals as well. Our udder placings in this class are 1, 2, and 3. In the mammary system, 1/2 for the advantage that she has in length, extension, fullness of that forward udder, the height and extreme width of this rear udder, and also being more smoothly blended from that rear udder into the body wall, especially when you view from the side. And then 2, the second place mammary system over our third place mammary system, just so much more overall capacity, more apparent capacity, height and width of rear udder. There's a more appropriate medial suspensory ligament and placement of the teats on the udder floor with more overall capacity and balance and symmetry of that mammary system relative to the size of the goat when viewed from both the rear and the side. And then our third place mammary system over the balance of the class, just having the most correctness now over the remaining does in overall area of attachment, the width of rear udder, the smoothness and blending of that rear udder attachment, and the length and extension of forward udder and shape of that mammary system. In the class placing 1/2, primary advantage here is actually in general appearance. She's just so much more correct in that front end assembly with less movement at the top of the shoulders. She's longer, stronger, wider across the back and loin. She's more nearly level across the area of the rump, both at rest and on the move. When we look at her in rear leg, there's more proper angulation to rear leg and standing on stronger pasterns and straighter on those forelegs, giving her the feet and leg advantage. And then in that mammary system, the overall capacity, height, and width of rear udder, the smoothness and blending of that rear udder attachment, the overall area of attachment with lateral attachments as well, over 2. 2 then over 3. A closer placing here, there's some trade-offs between these does, but just going with the apparent productivity, the height and width of that rear udder, the overall strength of medial suspensory ligament and teat placement, and the ease of motion around that mammary system as she's walking about the ring. And then in dairy strength, we see a longer, leaner, sharper, more feminine neck. She's more prominent in the wither. She's cleaner up into the area of the flank and thigh. When we look at her in flatness of bone and depth and angle and spring of rib, she's stronger in those categories as well. 3 then over 4 for the advantage that she has in mammary system, more overall area of attachment relative to the size of the goat and blending more smoothly into the body wall. Additionally then in general appearance, she walks with more high-headedness, she's more uphill to those withers. She's a doe that blends more smoothly from the neck down to the shoulder and more smoothly blended at the point of shoulder than we see in 4. 4 over 5 for the advantage that she has first in mammary system, just so much more capacity to the rear udder or apparent capacity to the rear udder and more balance and symmetry of the mammary system, the size of the mammary system relative to the size and age and stage of productivity of the goat. And then in general appearance, she's more upstanding in the front end assembly. She's a little higher headed. She's stronger in the area of the rump, both in the more pleasing slope of rump from hip to pin and flatter and wider from thurl to thurl than we see in 5. 5 over 6 for the advantage that she has first in mammary system. There's a more pleasing size, shape, length of teat on this udder, more apparent capacity to that mammary system, especially when you get behind them, the height and width of rear udder. And then when we look at her in dairy strength, just having more depth and spring of rib, more flatness of bone and looseness and pliability of skin. As a matter of degree, now she's more highly arched in the flank and cleaner in the area of the thigh than we see in 6. 6 over 7 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. She's longer and stronger across the back and rump. She has more pleasing set and angulation to rear legs. She has greater strength and substance of bone and tracks more nearly forward on those forelegs. In mammary system, we see more overall area of attachment to the mammary system, more length and extension, fullness and width of that forudder, and a more smoothly blended rear udder into the top of the escutcheon that we're seeing in 7. 7 over 8 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. She's longer and stronger across the back, particularly in the area of the chine. She's more nearly level and more smoothly blended from that area of the loin into the rump, and then having greater strength and substance of pastern and strength of rear pastern today, in combination with an advantage here in body capacity relative to age and stage of development. She's deeper and wider, fuller in that heart girth, carries more increasing depth back into the rear barrel. Certainly love the productivity and capacity again on this 8th place doe, and she is commended for that today. Thank you.
Our placings in the Nigerian 5 and 6-year-old class. That class was sponsored by Hidden Hills Nigerians. Jennifer Davis, first place, first udder, goes to Agape's Prize French Quarter, Mark Weir. Second place, second udder to Springwater, Janie's Got a Gun, Nancy Bowling. Third place and third udder, Sunview Ranch, Delightful Dale, exhibitor Terry Crowhurst. Fourth place, Woodbridge Farm, Unprecedented, Mark Weir. Our fifth place goat is the RZ Acres Good Night Moon, Laura Tyson, exhibitor. Sixth place, Hidden Hills HB River Blossom, Jennifer Davis. Seventh place in your 5 and 6 year-old milking class is Quaking Canopy, Nimbo Cumulus, Amanda Weber. Eighth place, See You at Little Red Barn, Scarlet, Megan Treadway Carter. Ninth place goes to Sandstone Ridge Holly Design, Sean Reeder. Your 10th place goes to Oak Apples and Drillin', Duva Appleman, exhibitor. Number 11 is Heaven's Hollow Little Pretty, Jill Womble. 12th place, first place youth, is CA Blackberry's Peach Blossom, Val Duong. Pleasant Dreams, Zippity Doo Dah. And everybody wants to say, Zippity A, Abigail Messer. 14th place, Urban Acres, Stormy Ace Day, Amanda Weber. 15th place is Rainy Rock AG Burnt Sugar, Angela Foster. 16th place, Rainy Rock Einstein's Girl, Angela Foster. 17th place, and your second youth was 3G Family Farm IHC Sapphira, Kaylee Foster. 18th place is our Serenity BS Catalina, Kate Chapman, the exhibitor. 19th place goes to Coyote Kids MR Nausicaa, Lorelei Halleck. And 20th place, Coyote Kids Fry J.A. Avenue Gillett, Lorelei Halleck, exhibitor. Again, we have our 7-year-old milkers in the ring. That class is sponsored by the Freiberg Farms, Rachel Snyder. As we're reading those, we will go to the 4-year-old milker class in our Toggenburg. We have Rao Folsom Wapiti Fern, Dr. Joan D. Rao, exhibitor. Second place, second udder is Rao's Folsom Fiorella, Dr. Joan D. Rao. Third place, third udder, Jonas Acres SF Queen, Sonia Tyson. Fourth place, Evie's SC Strawberry Sprout, Evelyn Harry. Fifth place is Gladdy Acres Rems Josie, Miranda Nathia Amstadt. Sixth place is Jonas Acres HK Dice, Sonia Tyson. Seventh place, Falcon Farm Sequoia, Patrina Buckeye. Eighth place goes to River Wind Lennon, Jan Edwards. Thank you for those. That was our 4-year-old milker class, sponsored by Ian Tires, and we have our 5-year-old class, or 5 and 6-year-old class in the ring now, sponsored by Ian Tires. We are in the 7 and over class with Nigerians right now. Mary Schofield from Sweet Beast Farm is our sponsor. And then in our 5 and 6 year old, no, I'm sorry, Mary Schofield is the 7 and over Toggenburg sponsor. My papers got turned around. And my 7 and over Nigerian sponsor is Fireburg Farms, Rachel Snyder. I apologize. Fireburg Farms is your 7 and over Nigerian dwarf sponsor. So as they come into place here, we will need our 1st and 2nd place Nigerians to begin getting ready to come into the ring shortly.
Okay, as they're coming into line, these are our Nigerian dwarf age does. The udder placings are 1, 2, and 3, starting here with an 8-year-old at the head of the line with 8 freshenings. This mammary system over the doe behind her, which is the 2nd udder, just a larger area of attachment, a little more apparent capacity here, more length and width in the forudder, greater width to the rear udder, a little bit more depth to the mammary system. Tremendous mammary system on the 2nd doe for a 10-year-old. Placing over the 3rd mammary system here on our 3rd place doe, much more balanced when viewed from the rear, softer texture to the mammary system. The teats are placed more correctly under the udder floor, a little bit more strength in the shape of the udder floor today in 2 over 3. Then 1 over 2 in the class, primarily on the mammary system placing. Slight advantage here in depth in the chest and depth of the body. She grants just a little bit cleaner front end to the 2nd place doe. I really love the general appearance, particularly for the age on both of these does. Then 2 over 3 for the advantages in the mammary system, in the shape, the udder floor, the placement of teats on the udder floor, a little bit leaner, cleaner doe throughout her body, a little bit sharper and cleaner, more open throughout. And then 3 over 4, slight advantage here in mammary system in length and capacity and width in the forudder, an advantage as she walks around her mammary system a little bit more easily than the 4th place doe. 4 over 5, an advantage in smoothness of blending throughout, and length and levelness of top line, shape and slope of rump. Really like the angularity though and the dariness on this 5th place doe. And she's placing over 6, showing an advantage in depth in the chest, a little bit more spring of rib and depth of barrel, a little bit more strength in this doe as well. And in the mammary system, she's a little more secure and high in the rear udder and has teats that are a little more correctly shaped than I see in 6. And then 6 placing over 7, a doe who's excelling in her dariness today. She's longer and leaner in the neck, just a cleaner profile in this doe with sharper withers, carrying a little bit less fleshing today, a much larger, more capacious mammary system in relation to the size of the doe. We have it 7. And then 7 placing over 8. For strengths and general appearance, her length of body, length through the loin and rump, shape and slope of rump, an advantage in mammary system, and height of rear udder as well. 8 placing over 9, advantage in body capacity, a longer, deeper, wider type doe, a mammary system that's more correct in its shape when viewed from the side. 9 placing over 10, just a fuller mammary system today with more capacity in relation to the size of the doe, but beautiful general appearance on 10, placing over 11. For the strength in the front end assembly, she's more correct in the shoulders, just showing a little bit more femininity as well over 11. 11 placing over 12 for an advantage in strength and general appearance. She's longer and more nearly level across her top line, with greater strength of rump, a mammary system that's more correct in shape when viewed from the rear and from the side. 12 over 13, just an advantage in fullness of mammary system up into the rear udder today, carrying a little more capacity in relation to her size. 13 over 14, our 14th place doe is 13 years old, so I did want to recognize that. Beautifully strong feet and legs on this doe. The doe in front of her, just showing a little bit more body capacity, a little bit more strength and general appearance, but tremendous soundness in 14 over 15, and a more sound mammary system than the 15th place doe behind her in its shape when viewed from the rear and from the side. 15 over 16, advantage in body capacity and depth throughout. 16 over 17, an advantage in mammary system and shape of mammary system when viewed from the side and from the rear. 17 over 18 in dairy strength, flatness of bone, and sharpness at the withers. Then 18 over 19 in shape of mammary system, strength of medial suspensory ligament. And 19 over 20 in her turn, a more correctly shaped mammary system when viewed from the side and from the rear. The 20th place doe, really deep-bodied, angular type doe. I'd like to commend her for that.
We need our first and second place Nigerians in each class into the ring at this point. First and second place Nigerian class winners to the ring. Well, while they're coming in, I needed to introduce our consulting judge here in Toggenburg today. Pete Snyder is a consulting judge. He's from Cowlsville, New York, a small town in western New York State, near Buffalo and Niagara Falls, where he's employed as an officer for the New York State Department of Correction. He's owned and bred dairy goats for over 53 years, currently breeding La Manchas, Alpines, and Nubians under the Brookwood Bittersweet herd names. Farm consists of goats, sheep, Maremma dogs, poultry, and they conduct an annual fifth-generation maple syrup harvest every year. Pete started out judging with the Canadian Goat Society in 1985, obtained his ADGA license in 1989. He's traveled to 49 states as well as judging many shows throughout Canada, Mexico, Australia, and New Zealand. He is a life member, serves on numerous boards in New York. He serves on several ADGA committees, including chair of the awards committee for several years. He was the local host chair of the ADGA convention that was held in Buffalo in 2009 and last year in Syracuse. It's his sixth invitation to judge at the national show, and he looks forward to judging this West Coast Naturals. He offers congratulations to all attendees and hopes that everyone has a safe and memorable time as they are here. Your consultant judge in the Toggenburgs, Mr. Pete Snyder. And as we look at the Nigerian championship lineup here, we do want to recognize our senior champion class sponsor, Dill's A Little Goat Farm, Ellen Dorsey. And your reserve senior champion is Al Haven Farms, Maria Fransorian, the sponsor for the senior champion and reserve senior champion.
Let's hear it for our Nigerian dwarf exhibitors. This is always quite a popular show to watch, and I see everybody has the cameras out, so you're all ready for this. So, tremendous show today as we look down our line here. This milking yearling, just absolutely beautiful. And so looking forward to seeing her in the future. Beautiful mammary system, lovely general appearance, and dairy strength. Just what we want to see. And then our 2-year-old is the same way. Length of body, strength of feet and legs, femininity, dairy strength, appropriate body capacity for her size and age. Just absolutely beautiful, correct mammary system. Our 3-year-old, again, just deep and wide. You can see the progression here of depth and width. Beautiful mammary system on this doe, just the long, capacious forudder, width of rear udder, and beautiful top line on this doe, and feet and legs and angularity. Our 4-year-old, just really powerful mammary system that really stands out for its length of forudder, placement of teats on the udder floor, real ideal rear udder here up into the escutcheon, correct medial, combined with smoothness of blending throughout, and a lot of balance here of the body and the mammary system. Then our 5- and 6-year-old mammary system that's tremendously capacious and wide, a lot of length to the forudder, width to the rear udder, a doe with a lot of body capacity and power through the front end, just a deep, wide, powerful doe. Then our 8-year-old here at the head of the line with 8 freshenings, just as correct in mammary system as the younger does. Here in this lineup, a long, capacious forudder, beautifully placed teats, and medial suspensory ligament, height of rear udder, strength of top line, and beautiful feet and legs. So as we look down our line here, there was one doe that in her class we kind of thought, wow, that's kind of the one, and so I've kind of had my eye on her all day, and just kind of hoping she came back out here looking the same way. And that's the black doe here in the center. We really feel like she has the area of attachment to the mammary system, the strength in feet and legs, the angularity and depth over these younger does, over the older does, compared to the white doe here, the 4-year-old, she's sharper in the withers, she's deeper in the body. Compared to the 5- and 6-year-old, she's more smoothly blended in the attachment to the mammary system, she's stronger on her feet and legs, she's higher headed as she moves out. And compared to the 8-year-old at the head of the line, she's sharper in the withers, a little bit flatter bone kind of doe, just a little leaner and cleaner throughout her body. She's going to be our champion today. And pulling her out of line now as we look at our other first place does and our second place doe coming into line now. She has a beautiful, productive mammary system. She's real similar in type there to our 5- and 6-year-old. But as we look down the line, we really feel the doe that has the maturity to be a reserve national champion, has the mammary system, the strengths and general appearance, feet and legs, and top line is the 4-year-old, and she's going to be our reserve champion.
First place youth in the Nigerian show, we need you to be prepared at the gate to come in for the choosing of our premier youth doe. So we need you to be getting ready. Testing. So I've not yet announced the placings on our age does, but we do want to go ahead and give congratulations to our senior champion, a senior champion, Hanson Hideaway BV Candy, Amanda Hanson, your 3-year-old senior champion, Nigerian dwarf. And for reserve senior champion, it is Urban Acres Snow White, Don and Jenna Williams. Two beautiful does. Congratulations to those exhibitors. We do need our junior champion and junior reserve from last night, if you will bring them into the ring so that we can choose our overall grand and reserve. So I need last night's junior champion and junior reserve ringside. And while they are coming ringside, that age doe class, first place, first udder was Urban Acres ASD Ferry, Don and Jenna Williams. Second place, second udder, Urban Acres ASD Aurora, also Don and Jenna Williams. Third place, third udder was Woodbridge Farms 22 Karat Gold, Mark Weir. Fourth place, Woodbridge Farms Counting Blessings, Mark Weir. I said Jenna, I'm sorry. I apologize, I mispronounced the name. As we wait on that reserve, I'll continue to announce there. Our fifth place doe was Milking Kids Lunar Frost, Angela Frost. Sixth place was Quaking Canopy Ali Ali, Amanda Weber. Seventh place Oak Apple Duva Appleman. Eighth place, first place youth was White Oak Farms Lucky Star, Kaylee Foster. Ninth place was Night Heron Farms Katniss, Kate Chapman. 10th place was Woodbridge Farms Spelling Bee, Laura Tyson. 11th place was Hanson Hideaway Farm Almond Joy, Amanda Hanson. 12th place was Poppy Patch HB Tiffany, Terry Crowhurst. 13th place was Bella Fire Bridal Bouquet, Daniel Prier. 14th place was Algidi Farms Antante, Denise Hetland. 15th place goes to SG Oak Apple Maraschino, Westy Hoey. 16th place, Lavender Wood EC Bell's Willow, Casey Roberts. 17th place was Almar Acres I'm a Jewel Thief, Amber McLaren. 18th place is Spring Water HKY She's Beautiful, Leroy Satter. Your 19th place doe was Rainy Rocks Octavia, Angela Foster. And 20th place, second udder, was the AR Sunny Delight with Madeline Lowry. And again, congrats to our senior champion and our reserve senior champion as we wait for our reserve junior in the ring.
This is our Grand and Reserve Grand Champion class, and we have our Senior and Reserve Senior Champion, our Junior Champion, and Reserve Junior Champion. They're all beautiful does here competing for Grand and Reserve Grand Champion. We're going to stay with our milking does today. Our Senior and Reserve Senior Champion as our Grand and Reserve Grand Champion for their beautiful mammary systems and dairy strength and development to the bodies and the number of lactations through these mammary systems. Thank you.
All right, these are our Toggenburg 5- and 6-year-old does coming into line and settling with our second place line here. An interesting class. It took us a little bit longer to sort through some things because there's a lot of trade-offs between all of these does. This first place doe, and we'll talk about the mammary system here first, I guess. Mammary systems are 1, 2, and 5. The first place doe does have the first place mammary system. It excels the second place doe standing directly behind her in the overall capacity, balance, and symmetry relative to the size of the goat, the length, fullness, width, and extension of that forudder, the height and width, security of rear udder, the strength of the medial suspensory ligament, and division of the halves comparatively to 2. 2 then over 3, which is on our 5th place doe, certainly having a grant, and I was always taught never to start with a grant, but it's the low-hanging fruit here. She is granting some capacity to that mammary system. But when we look at the overall area of attachment, the correctness of the mammary system, it's a more smoothly blended rear udder attachment. It's a higher rear udder attachment. We do have greater strength of the lateral attachments and a stronger, more appropriately placed teat on the udder floor when viewed from the rear. And then our 5th place doe has our 3rd place udder over the 2 does standing in front of and the rest of the does behind her, just for that extreme capacity and width of that rear udder. The shape when viewed from the side, there's a more pleasing globular shape with that third that we're looking at than comparatively to the remaining does in the class. Now for the class placing, 1 placing over 2. We really felt that this doe came up to the top of the line after we worked her for a little bit. She is a smaller made type of a doe comparatively to some of the does standing behind her. But when you look at this mammary system, it's so capacious and so correct when you look at it from every angle. The height and width of rear udder excels the doe standing behind her, the apparent capacity of the mammary system, the length, fullness, and extension of forudder. And then in general appearance, she's a doe that's stronger in her smoothness, blending from the neck down into the top of the shoulder. She's fuller in the crops. She's longer across the back and loin. She has a more pleasing slope to rump and angle from hip to pin than we see in 2. 2 over 3, for the advantage that she has, it is in dairy strength. She's longer of neck, she's sharper in those withers, she has more looseness and pliability of skin, a little freer from excess coarseness today. Additionally, a doe, in her general appearance, she's straighter on the foreleg when viewed from the side, a little more correctly angulated on those rear legs as she walks around the mammary system and walks away from you today. This 3rd place doe then over 4, this 3rd place doe is milking through on an extended lactation. It is for the overall shape and security of that mammary system when viewed from the side, the overall area of attachment that we're seeing, in combination with just this tremendous depth of body, spring of rib, power, width, and strength throughout, in combination with being a more smoothly blended doe front to rear and more angular doe front to rear than we see in 4. 4 then over 5 for the advantage that she has now in her turn in general appearance. Especially on the move, this doe tracks a little bit more ease of motion on those rear legs, more flex and angle to the rear leg, a greater strength of rear pastern today. Additionally, a doe in her general appearance is a more high-headed, more upstanding individual with a longer bone pattern throughout than we're seeing in 5. 5 over 6, it is for that mammary system, particularly the height and width, security of that rear udder, the length and fullness, extension of that forudder, the teat size, shape, and delineation on the teat. And then in body capacity, she's deeper, fuller, wider in the chest, carries more depth and more increasing depth back into into the rear barrel than 6. 6 over 7 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. She's a doe that's stronger on all 4 feet and legs today, and in front end assembly, less accessory movement of the top of the shoulder as she's walking about the ring. And then in mammary system, when you get it from behind, it's a wider rear udder with more uniform width from the top of the udder to the floor of the udder than we're seeing in 7. 7 then over 8, and you guys can feel free to move up in line here. 7 or 8 for the advantage that she has in overall udder shape, especially when we look at that from side profile. A more pleasing shape and extension and fullness, width of that fore udder, more securely held higher into the body cavity than we're seeing 8. And then in body capacity, she's a deeper doe relative to the size and frame of this goat over 8. 8 over 9, it is for all of that productivity, the height, width, apparent capacity of that rear udder, the length and fullness of that fore udder. And then when we look at her in general appearance, she's a more high-headed, more upstanding, more uphill to the withers doe. She's stronger on all 4 feet and legs, particularly the straightness of the foreleg when viewed from the side than we're seeing at 9. 9 over 10 for the advantage that she has in general appearance. Now she's straighter on the foreleg, both from the front and from the side. Additionally, a doe with more apparent capacity to that mammary system when viewed from the rear, with greater height and width and smoothness of blending of the rear udder than we see in 10. This 10th place doe is also milking through on an extended lactation from last year. She just excels the 11th place doe in general appearance. She's so much more smoothly blended and long and strong across the areas of the chine and loin, and then more pleasing slope to rump, a more correctly angulated and set rear leg on this doe when we look at her in general appearance as well. 11 over 12 for the advantage that she has now in her turn in general appearance. She's much more smoothly blended from neck down into shoulder. She has a longer bone pattern throughout, a more pleasing shape to that mammary system, an overall area of attachment on the mammary system with more fullness of that forward than we see in 12. 12 then over 13, we see a doe that's more angular in her dairy strength, a longer neck. She's sharper and more prominent in the withers. She's more highly arched and clean in the areas of the flank. And then in that mammary system, more apparent productivity. These are 5- and 6-year-old does. So we went with the capacity of that mammary system and productivity. And then this 13th place doe, certainly want to appreciate the strength of feet and legs that she has on all 4 feet and legs, and the angulation to rear leg that she's exhibiting today. Thank you.
This is our competition in the Nigerian dwarf breed for Premier Youth Senior Doe. And as I look down the line at these does, lovely does here representing each of the age classes, but the doe that really stands out to me for her strength in mammary system, the capacity of mammary system, the area of attachment. She was a great competitor in her class is the 3-year-old, and she's going to be our Premier Youth Doe today. Congratulations.
All right, Nigerians, we're going to start group classes. If you can find Dr. Ed down there, the school bus driver, he will get you checked in and get you ready to get into the ring for the beginning of our group classes, beginning with dairy herd. And we do want to acknowledge both Dr. Ed and Laura here, working tirelessly as our ring steward and our show secretary for Nigerians last night and tonight. Between them and the judges, they've checked in and judged nearly 600 animals in the last 575 total Nigerians judged in the last 24 hours. So thanks for the judges and the show staff here to help make that happen. I do want to give a shout out our grand champion and reserve grand champion sponsors in the Nigerian breed. Grand champion sponsor was Agape's prize Mark Weir. Our reserve grand champion sponsor was Hidden Hills Nigerians, Jennifer Davis. Thank you for that sponsorship. And in our 5 to 6-year-old class in Toggenburgs, placings are in as we have one class to go. But in our 5 to 6 Toggenburg class, first place, first udder goes to Evie's TG Kinky Boots, Evelyn Harry. Second place, second udder to Jonas Acres High Roller, Sonia Tyson. Rose Frostline Faith the second, Dr. Joan D. Rao, the exhibitor. Quality Crest Cowboy Maggie, 4th place from Harmony Alpines. 5th place, third udder is Moss Ridge Rems Jacardi. Tracy Jones, exhibitor. 6th place is Moss Ridge Rims Jonna, Amy Dunning, exhibitor. 7th place was Evie's Togg's Thrills Jovi, Evelyn Harry. 8th place, Rao's Romano Ribbon, Dr. Joan D. Rao, exhibitor. 9th place goes to Moss Ridge Jess Jen, Tracy Jones. 10th place is Rao's Time Rosanna, Joshua Albrecht. 11th place is Jonas Akers Seat Center of Attention, Sonia Tyson. Our 12th place, first place youth is Liberty Ranch TAAJ Jitterbug, Emily Kroll, the exhibitor. And 13th place is Moss Ridge Jukebox Jing, Miranda Mathia M. Stutz. And we have our final class of Toggenburg milkers in the ring now, and our dairy herd class in the ring in the Nigerian side. We're looking for Angelica Rudal and Laura Thiessen. We need your animals for dairy herd if you're coming to the ring.
Okay, these are our Toggenburg aged does. These are does that are 7 and older standing out here. A beautiful class of aged does, and again, to each of the exhibitors, to maintain a doe into functionality and productivity into these later years is an achievement in itself. And so I applaud the exhibitors for having these older does that are still so sound and correct in many areas. The udder placings in this class are 2, 1, 3. When looking at just the mammary system, 2 over the second place doe over the first place doe, there's just so much more height and width of rear udder, more length, fullness, extension of the fore udder, more overall capacity or apparent capacity and productivity relative to the size of the goat. Additionally, when we look at the teat placement, just a little more appropriate length of teat and teat placement on the udder floor when viewed from the rear. Then our first place doe, which is the second place udder, over our third place doe, which is the third udder, for the advantage that it has an overall area of attachment, the height and smoothness, the blending of that rear udder attachment into the body wall, the length and fullness of that forward when viewed from the side, and teats that are more perpendicular to the ground when you view them from the side. And then our third place doe with our third udder of the doe standing behind her, just for overall shape and capacity to that mammary system. In our class placing, the first doe just excels the second place doe, first in general appearance. She's stronger on those rear pasterns today, more correctly angulated on rear leg with more ease of motion on those rear legs as she tracks around the mammary system and as she walks away from you. She's straighter on the foreleg when viewed from the side and walks more nearly forward as she comes towards you. She's a more upstanding individual with a longer, more level back, especially in the areas of the chine and loin. And then in dairy strength, she has a longer, leaner, more cleanliness of that neck. She blends into more sharp and angulated withers. And then when we look at the depth and spring of rib, the flatness of bone that she has, it carries her over the second place doe, while she will yield to that first place mammary system, the overall area of attachment and capacity. And it is for that mammary system that 2 places over 3, the overall height and width and security of the rear udder, the length, fullness, and extension and width of that fore udder, the overall capacity to the mammary system. And then when we look at her in general appearance now we have a doe that has less movement at the top of the shoulders as she's walking about the ring, a more naturally level back and rump, especially the angle of rump from hip to pin than we're seeing in 3. 3 over 4 for the advantage that she has now in her turn in general appearance, just so much more upstanding and uphill to the withers as she's walking. She's straighter on those forelegs, both when viewed from the side and from the front. A doe that has more correctness in the length and levelness of the loin, the width of loin. She's flatter in rump from thurl to thurl and more correctly angulated in those rear legs. And then in mammary system, having more overall pleasing shape when viewed from the side, more capacity and less protrusion of that mammary system behind the leg than we're seeing in 4. This fourth place doe certainly loved the depth of body and spring of rib and power that she has, and she is commended for that. Thank you.
These are Nigerian dwarf dairy herds, and the herd here at the head of the line show the most consistency here and strength and shape and mammary system, strength and general appearance. This group has some age, significant age here. We have an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and our reserve champion. And so a nice mature group here to start with. Our second group over, our third group, strength and mammary system, a little more consistent across the group and viewed from the rear. The dairy strength is the real difference. A little bit sharper, cleaner does when you look at every individual all the way across the group, a little more consistent, a little bit more depth of body here. Some mature does here again with a lot of depth and development to their bodies. Third group over, the fourth group, some beautiful individuals here. As a group, more length and capacity in the fore udder, a little bit more length across the top line all the way through. Fourth group over the fifth place group, an advantage in mammary system overall and shape of mammary system, a little bit more securely attached mammary systems, a little bit more consistent with each other in type. But I love the productivity, the depth of the mammary system, the visibility of the rear udders, and just hardworking does here in our fifth place group. What a dairy herd should be here, placing over 6, so just a little bit more consistency and capacity across the group, a little bit more length across their top lines. 6 placing over 7 on shape of mammary system, an advantage in shape of rear udder and width of rear udder. The 7th group over the 8th group, just on a little cleaner and leaner kind of does throughout their body, a little bit more feminine kind of does with a little bit more capacity today. But I love the length and width and depth on these does. They're powerful, strong does, and they're all consistent with each other in type across the group. Over our 9th place group, it's not quite as consistent, not quite the body style or strength that we have. in this group, and then 9 over 10, an advantage today in capacity in the mammary systems and area of attachment, 10 over 11, in their turn an advantage in body capacity, those that have more depth and development to their bodies, a little bit more consistency in general appearance, 11 over 12, for their dairy strength, flatness of bone, length across the top line, and then as we come down our groups here, not quite as strong in mammary system as we had farther up the line, but lovely individuals here, really like seeing all the capacity that we're seeing in the mammary systems in these does for dairy herd.
Okay, this is going to be the tattoo check class here, Nigerians. Breeders Trio, we need 3 registration papers for each goat brought in.
just taking a moment to take this lineup in myself. Thank you to the Toggenburg exhibitors for bringing these beautiful animals representative of their breed of dairy goats that are sound and functional. They're strong in general appearance. They're strong in those mammary systems, our two highest point categories. Each of these does is strong in her dairy strength, not only the dairiness and femininity, but the strength and substance to sustain it. And then beautiful body capacity relative to age and stage and size of each of these goats. And again, it's just been an absolute pleasure to judge these animals. I knew this was going to happen, you guys. In contention for our senior champion Toggenburg, we started down here with a milking yearling. Has a lot of depth of body, spring of rib, angularity throughout, a tremendous amount of area of attachment on this mammary system and capacity to the mammary system. We move up to our 2-year-old doe here, just tremendously strong in her dairy strength, just a long, beautiful feminine neck. The angularity and that wedge shape that we're starting to see as we get into this slightly more mature animal, and just beautiful productivity, shape, and attachment to this mammary system. A 3-year-old doe that just exudes dairy strength and power and substance. The general appearance on this doe just really wide and level and strong across the back. A tremendously capacious and well-attached mammary system and all of that body capacity. Our 4-year-old doe here, very similar in type to the 3-year-old doe, just tremendously deep and powerful and wide. But when we look at the general appearance on her, again, such strong feet and legs, beautifully high-headed animal with that dairy wedge and that dairy frame, and a superbly productive and well-attached mammary system on her. When we come up here to this 5- and 6-year-old class winner, she's a little bit of a different type, a little smaller made doe, but still nonetheless correct, beautifully productive in that mammary system, a lot of shape, capacity, overall area of attachment. We look at this doe, she's so high-headed and angular, very, very sharp and beautiful in that dairy strength as well. And then our age doe at the top of the line here, this is a 7-year-old doe, standing on rock-solid feet and legs and angulation to those rear legs. Again, a beautifully shaped and capacious mammary system, showing evidence of a lifetime of productivity. When looking at this lineup, there were 2 does that jumped out to me right away, and I said, that's the pair, that's the competition. And I think that it should hopefully be relatively obvious, and I think my consultant, Pete Snyder, he agreed with me right away. The competition is between this first place 3-year-old and this first place 4-year-old. In comparison with our yearling and our 2-year-old, just more maturity and depth of body, more power, more overall capacity to those mammary systems. In comparison with our 5-year-old doe, just more depth of body, spring of rib, more power and size and scale. And in comparison to our 7-year-old doe, who we certainly give an honorable mention for that beautiful set and angulation to rear legs and a soundly attached mammary system, but we just have so much more. More capacity in the mammary system, more depth in spring of rib, a stronger general appearance in those front end assemblies. So when comparing these two, I know we say this at some of those club shows sometimes, but you can really go either way with these two. The way that I felt it was when we watched them on the move here. There's a doe that excels the other one in general appearance. She's straighter on the foreleg and viewed from the side. She's a little more appropriately angled on that rear leg with just a slightly stronger rear pastern. When we watch them on the move, she's longer, wider, stronger across the back. In dairy strength, she is longer in neck, she's sharper and more prominent in the withers, she has more depth and spring of rib. And then in mammary system, they're very close, but we felt that there was a little bit more height, width, and smoothness of blending of that rear udder into the body wall with a more appropriate length of fore udder as a matter of degree, and a more appropriate delineation of teat on the udder floor when you look behind them. Your 2023 national champion Toggenburg, national senior champion, Toggenburg, is the first place 4-year-old. Congratulations. And now we'll pull that second place 4-year-old doe into line to compete with our remaining animals for our reserve senior champion. We don't see quite the same strength of mammary system or feet and legs in this doe to make her more competitive with the remaining does. And now the competition would be between that first place 3-year-old and first place age doe. And again, for that width and strength and depth and power, the overall capacity to the mammary system, particularly the height and width of rear udder, the length, fullness, width, and extension of that fore udder, more appropriate in her dairy strength, having more strength and substance of bone. The 2023 national senior champion, or national reserve senior champion Toggenburg is the first place 3-year-old. Congratulations.
Okay, so back over at the Nigerian Dwarf Show, these are our best three females groups, and so again, starting with this group at the head of the line, just age and maturity here, consistency in type, in body style. Really love the angularity though that we have here in our second place group. Deep bodies, angular does, depth of body, a little bit more maturity than we have in 3. Length of body in 3 is outstanding. Some young does here with beautiful mammary systems. So placing over a little bit more mature group. They're a little more consistent with each other in type, but tremendous productivity in 4, tremendous large area of attachment, a lot of capacity in these mammary systems, placing over 5 for the depth of body and capacity in the mammary system, 5 over 6. An advantage in shape of mammary system is more consistent all the way across the group, more similar to each other. 6 does, a lot of femininity here and length of body, placing over 7. For that reason, 7 over 8, an advantage in their turn in dairy strength, length of neck, and femininity. 8 over 9, those showing a little bit more capacity in the mammary systems today, a little fuller, a little more balanced with the size of the animal. Love the depth of body and length and width on 9, placing over 10 for those advantages. Some more strength here in general appearance across the top line, but productive does in mammary systems in 10, placing over 11, a little bit more correctness in shape, a little bit more depth of body. 11 placing over 12, again for strength in mammary system, shape of foreudder, and then 12 over 13, an advantage here in body capacity, just length, width, and depth. And then this group over the group behind them showing an advantage in overall attachment and capacity of mammary system. Feminine does here, really like the femininity and the strength in feet and legs all the way around.
Caden, hold them up. We need, hey, Caden, hold them up over. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we've brought back out our junior champions from last night to compete with our senior champions for the title of National Grand Champion and National Reserve Grand Champion. I really appreciate the soundness and correctness, the dairy frames, the beautiful general appearance, and the body capacity and depth and power that we have relative to their age and stage of development in these junior does. I really believe that both of these does could have their day someday and maybe move up here into these senior champion slots. But for today, for the productivity and the soundness of mammary systems, it is quite easy for me to stay with our senior champion and reserve senior champion for National Grand Champion and National Reserve Grand Champion. Congratulations.
Congratulations. In our Toggenburg show, we have our national champions preparing to take a picture. First place grand champion is Rao's Folsom Wapiti Fern II, Dr. Joan D. Rao, exhibitor. And our reserve national champion 2023 is Rao's Fusion Faithful, again, Dr. Joan D. Rao. Congratulations to amazing, beautiful does. We will need our first place premier youth exhibitors to be preparing to come into the ring. So first place premier youth exhibitors in our Toggenburg show, please prepare to come into the ring. As we're taking pictures here in our Nigerian show, in Dairy Herd, Urban Acres, Dairy Herd, Don Jenna Williams, first place. Second place, Springwater, Nancy Bowling. Third place was Wolf Van, Renee Wolf. Fourth place, CA Blackberries of the Duong family. Fifth place, Hanson Hideaway Farms, Amanda Hanson. Sixth place was Campy, Amanda Weber. That was Quaking Canopy. Our seventh place Dairy Herd was Sunview Ranch. Eighth place was Oak Apple Farms. Your ninth place Dairy Herd was Rainy Rock. 10th place was We Three Farms. 11th was Stay a While. 12th place was Sweet 2x2. 13th, Leisure Time. 14th, Floof Farm. 15th place was Tiny Teats. And your best three senior does in the Nigerian show. First place again went to Urban Acres. Second place, Springwater. Third place was Wolf Van. Fourth place, Hanson's Hideaway Farm. Fifth place was CA Blackberries. Sixth place, Sunview Ranch Delightful Dale. Quaking Canopy was seventh. Hidden Hills was your eighth place herd. Oak Apple Farms was 9. Rainy Rock, 10. Stay a While, 11. And We Three Farms was 12. And with that, we need our junior premier first place exhibitors in the Toggenburg back in.
So we have our two senior does for our Premier Youth Senior Toggenburg out here. We have a 2-year-old to my left and a 6-year-old to my right competing for the honor of your National Show Premier Youth Senior Doe in the Toggenburg breed. We're going to go with the older doe today. We feel she excels in general appearance, the strength and straightness of back and top line, the smoothness of blending from the neck down into the shoulder. Additionally, she's standing on slightly stronger, more angulated rear legs. In mammary system, we have a longer, wider, fuller forerunner with more apparent capacity to the mammary system when viewed from the side than we see in the second doe or our 2-year-old. So our 6-year-old doe at the head of the line will be your National Premier Youth Senior Toggenburg doe. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Emily Kroll with her doe Liberty Ranch TAAJ Jitterbug as your premier youth doe in the Toggenburg show. Toggenburg breeders, if you would begin to prepare your group classes, and as a reminder, please have your registration papers handy as there will be a tattoo check in one of the classes. Thank you.
These are senior get-up sire groups. Strong group here to start. Mammary system strength, area of attachment and capacity and similarity to each other and type. The second place group, not quite as tall in the front end, not quite as consistent in style, but really deep bodied does, a lot of capacity again in the mammary system, just depth and development in the bodies over three over four, a little bit more consistent shape of mammary system when viewed from the rear. They're more similar to each other in type, but some lovely individuals here in our fourth place group with a lot of quality all the way through, particularly in length of forerunner, with the rear udder a little bit more capacity in mammary system overall than I see in 5 for their size and age. 5 over 6, a more consistent group with each other. As you look across the group in shape of mammary system when viewed from the side and from the rear, but again, some lovely individuals here for their dairiness and femininity, and that advantage is over 7, 7 over 8. Just a little more consistency here. Again, in shape of mammary system, length of forerunner, really productive does here in this group that we saw throughout the show. And then 8 over 9, an advantage. As I look at these does from the rear, real productive, capacious rear udders on this group. 9 over 10, a little more consistent shape of mammary system. Teats that are a little more delineated, just similar does in type here, a little more so than we have in the 10th place group. 10 over 11, much more capacity in both the bodies and the mammary systems, more depth and development, a little more productivity here. 11 over 12, and shape of mammary system again, height of rear udder, like the body style on these does. They're deep and wide and powerful, more so than the 13th place group, and then the 13th group over the 14th group, just a little more shape of mammary system, a little more consistent with each other and type. Prefer the length of body and depth of body in this group over the 15th place group. Thank you.
We have 5 beautiful Toggenburg dairy herds out here competing in this class. The first place group just is an easy top in this group. They're just the most correct in their general appearance, combined with their mammary systems, the depth of body, spring of rib, and power, and the dairy strength that they have. Just a lot more of the goats comparatively to 2. And then when we look at these group classes, we're looking at consistency and uniformity across all 4 members. And this is, I exclaimed to my consulting judge, this is 4 peas in a pod. They all look about like the exact same goat, just different ages and different circulatory systems, I guess, as a matter of degree. 2 then over 3 for the advantage that they have more uniformity in their general appearance, especially the slope of rump, the correctness in front end assembly. 3 then over 4 for the advantage that they have in mammary systems, just more overall uniformity in the height and width of rear udder and the uniform width from the top of the udder to the udder floor comparatively, and then also more uniform in their depth of body comparatively to the 4th place group. 4 then over 5 for the advantage that they have in overall productivity, area of attachment, and capacity to those mammary systems. This 5th place group certainly love the width of chest that they have as a grouping, and they are to be commended for that.
Placing our top 10 here in the group classes, we have ribbons to 10. So our first place group here over our second place group, a little bit more consistency and shape of mammary system when viewed from the side and from the rear. A lot of productivity here in our second place group, tremendous mammary systems for their capacity, length of foreudder, so placing over 3, 3 over 4, a little bit more consistency here in their turn and shape of mammary system, strength of medial suspensory ligament, tremendous productivity in 4 over 5 for the extra capacity, area of attachment with the mammary system, 5 over 6, a little bit more correct shape again when from the rear, the height of rear udder, the strength of medial suspensory ligament. Placement of teats on the udder floor is more similar to each other. Our 6th group are over our 7th group for length of body, levelness across the top line, lovely dairy strength here. These does very productive, a little more capacity in the mammary systems in relation to the size of the does. body style in these does, length across the top line, depth of body. It's a little stronger than 9, and then 9/10, just more capacity. In the mammary systems, a little more consistent with each other. In the group, 10th place group, really sound group across their top lines and front ends.
This is our Toggenburg Best 3 Senior Does, or as I prefer to call it, Senior Breeders Trio, because all 3 of these animals must be bred and owned by the exhibitor. Our first place group over the second place group, very similar reasons to our dairy herd, just the more consistent group here in body shape, depth, width, and power, the overall capacity to those mammary systems, the width and height of rear udder, the length, extension, and fullness of those fore udders, the overall dairy strength that they have, having a little bit more of that strength component comparatively to the number 3 for the advantage that they have, just having more correctness in general appearance, a little more upstanding in those front end assemblies as a group, having more overall area of attachment and uniformity of those areas of attachment on those mammary systems than we see in 3/4. A close placing here. Just felt that the advantage here was in the age and maturity, the depth of body as a group, the spring of rib, the dairiness as a group, and a pair of 3 in a close placing. 4 then over 5 for the advantages that they have in uniformity of the strength of mammary system, the overall height and width and productivity in the rear udders, the length and fullness of shape of the fore udder, carrying them over 5. This 5th place group, again, really love the depth of body and spring of rib that they exhibit as a group, and they will be commended for that. Thank you.
All right, senior get of sire class in the Nigerians. Your first place senior get goes to Agape's prize counting on Quinn. Second place goes to SG Sugar Moon NS Alejandro. Third place is Agape's prize Goldie Cox. Fourth place, Algidi Farms Kinetic Riptide. Fifth place is Urban Acres Doppelganger. Sixth place was Alethea Cosmic Wonder. Seventh place, Rainy Rock Augustus. Eighth place was We 3 Farms Debonair. Your ninth place get of sire was Castle Rock Beam Me Up. 10th was Urban Acres Holland Ace. 10th was Hetland Sharp Dressed Man. 12th place was Leroy Sattersbuck. 13th place, Agape's Prize, Scarlet Oaks. 14th place, Old Mountain Farm, Sarunas. And 15th place goes to Trace Rios or Horatio.
These are our 10 top placings here in our mother-daughter group. And so here at the head of the line, an easy top here, really productive mammary systems, width of mammary system, length of foreudder, the udder placings on these does. Combined with the similarity here in body style and width and depth, a younger group here with our milking yearling, but our beautiful milking yearling here. So a nice consistent group and length of body. They're longer across the top line, a little bit more strength of rump than our third place group, the third group over the fourth group. A little more consistent with each other in mammary system shape, width of rear udder, and just body style and femininity, but tremendous capacity here. And the daughter, obviously, nice improvements here in this group. And then they're placing over the group behind them for that capacity in the mammary systems of the height of rear udder. Similar group here to each other in style for their dairiness and femininity, placing over the sixth place group for those reasons. Sixth placing over 7, just a little bit more capacity here today. Love the dam in this group. The daughter is similar, just not quite as productive yet, not quite as developed in the mammary system, but lovely. And placing over the group behind them. A little leaner and cleaner throughout their bodies. Love the length of body on these does, the strength of top line placing over the group behind them for those reasons, and strength in mammary system as well. And then capacious mammary systems on these does, a little more so with a little bit more similarity in shape. Love the productivity here in this doe. She's caught my eye all day. And then a feminine group here over the remainder of the groups for their femininity and style and length and levelness across the top line.
If you have a first place Nigerian udder, please report to the ring now for best udder competition.
Okay, attention in the barns, attention in the barns. We are coming to the conclusion of our Nigerian show in Ring 2. We're almost done with group classes in Ring 1. This evening's schedule is that Oberhausley begins at 4 p.m. It will begin in Ring 2 at 4 p.m. Recorded grades is tentatively scheduled to start at 5 p.m. That will be dependent on our judge, Julie Mathis, completing the Nigerians in time for her to change and eat. So we will update shortly on the recorded grade, but Oberhausley Junior Show, Ring 2, 4 p.m. or shortly thereafter. All right, in our Nigerian show, Senior Produce a Dam, first place was Woodbridge Unprecedented, Mark Weir. Second was Gladdy Acres Reese's, Amanda Hansen. Third was Springwater BL, Janie's Got a Gun, Nancy Bowling. Third place, Agape's Price French Quarter, Mark Weir. Fifth place was Bellfire Country Melody, Jennifer Davis. Sixth place, Springwater Jane Doe, Nancy Bowling. Third place went to Milk and Kids M&M Lunar Frost, Angela Foster. Eighth place was SGCH Camana Moonlight Opera, Duva Appleman. Ninth place was champion Night Heron Farms Katniss, Kate Chapman. And 10th place went to Quaking Canopy Gamora, Amanda Weber.
This is our Toggenburg Senior Get of Sire coming into line here. In Senior Get of Sire, we're looking for 3 animals, all having the same sire. And ideally, we want to see a group that has 3 dams represented so we can really get an idea or a picture of what that sire is doing. We have 3 dams represented in this first group comparatively to 2 dams represented in the second group. And it is for the uniformity of upstandingness in the front end assembly. They're a little tighter in the shoulders as a group. They're a little longer across the back, a little longer across the rump. More uniformity in the set and angulation to rear leg as a group of 3. And then in mammary system, while yielding the overall productivity and capacity to those mammary systems, we see rear udders that are more uniform in their smoothness of blending into the escutcheon and body wall as a group than 2. 2 over 3, just more uniformity of that udder shape for us today here among all 3 group members. And again, having 2 dams represented and 2 dams represented, just a little more correctness in again, that udder shape and the strength of the feet and legs as a group of 3 over the third place group. 3 then over 4, again, we have now 2 dams represented comparatively to 3 dams represented, but there's just so much more depth and maturity, more power, more productivity and evidence of productivity and capacity to these third place group over 4. Fourth place group certainly love the strength of feet and legs and strength of passing that they have as a grouping, and they should be commended for that. Thank you.
These are all of our first and second place udders from our Nigerian Dwarf show. We're going to have the 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5 and 6-year-old, and the H doe all milk out. So go ahead and milk those 4 does. We appreciate you bringing all these other does in today, but we really feel that our best and reserve best udder will come out of this group of 4 does. So you can go ahead and milk those, and thank you so much for bringing these does in.
All right, Nigerians are milking out. We'll look at production awards there momentarily. But in the meantime, in our Toggenburg show, best 3 senior does goes to Rouse Toggenburgs. Second place goes to Joas Acres. Third place would be Evie's Dairy Goats. Fourth place, Moss Ridge. And fifth place goes to Gladdy Acres. In the senior Git class, first place was Elise Franklin Set Right. Second place was legendary RHS Rembrandt. Third place was Rouse Wapiti A. Romano. Fourth place was Royal Cedars Sebastian Gallagher. Congratulations to all of those. I'll read those class sponsors shortly. In the meantime, we have our senior dam and daughter class placings in the Nigerian ring. First place was Agape's Prize French Quarter. Second place was Hidden Hills Natural Mystic, Renee Wolf. Third place was Woodbridge Farm Unprecedented, Mark Weir. Fourth place, Gladdy Acres Reese's. Sixth place, Springwater Janie's Got a Gun. Sixth place was Daylight Dreamcatcher by Nancy Bowling. Seventh place, Urban Acres Snow White, Don and Jenna Williams. Eighth place was Wolfavan CQ Ginger Root, Renee Wolf. Ninth place, Twin Pair Sweet Marimeko, Westy Howie. And then 10th place was Sunview Ranch Delightful Dale Terry Crownhurst. And as they are milking out the Nigerians, our production award winners for this year's show, our 305 winner for both milk and butterfat goes to We Three Farms D. Rosemary, Sonia Thiessen. So, Sonia, we have awards up here for production awards for both 305 milk and butterfat. And then our lifetime milk and butterfat this year goes to Hanson's Hideaway Farm Almond Joy, Amanda Hanson. Production awards for year 2, the lifetime milk and lifetime butterfat. As we go through those, some of our class sponsors here, as it's gotten pretty busy this afternoon. Our best udder in the Nigerian that they're milking out for right now was sponsored by Lady Walkers, Lori Yeski. Reserve best udder was Agape's Prize, Mark Weir. Dairy herd was the ANDDA, American Nigerian Dwarf Dairy Association. Produce a Dam Award was sponsored this year by Dill's A Little Goat Farm, Ellen Dorsey. The senior Git was Agape's Prize, Mark Weir. Best 3 senior does, Renee Wolf of Wolfavan Ranch. The Dam and Daughter class was sponsored this year by Glimmerwood Farms, Amy Rogers. And in the Toggenburgs here, our senior champion was sponsored by J&L Acres, McChesney Family. The reserve senior champion was sponsored by Tool Creek Dairy, Lee and Carrie Bartram. Grand champion overall, K-Bar C Farms, Full Circle Mobile Veterinary Services. And then reserve grand was sponsored by Hogg's Hideaway, Diddy and Kathy Hogg.
Our Toggenburg Produce and Dam class here, again, these are 2 individuals that have the same dam or the same mother. This first place group came to the top very easily in my mind. Again, just very similar in their body style comparatively to the second group as a uniform group. They're stronger in their mammary systems with the over height and width of rear udder, the length and fullness of the forudder. They're stronger in their rear leg set, angulation, and strength of pastern. They're also stronger in the area of the length of back and the levelness of back and rump than we see in 2. 2 over 3, just more goat here. We have an advantage in the depth of body, spring of rib. They're sharper, cleaner, more angular, and more productive in those mammary systems than we see in 3. 3 over 4, a closer placing, but we have the advantage here was in sharpness of shoulders, a little bit freer from excess fleshing and coarseness as a group comparatively to the group in 4. 4 over 5 for the advantage that they have in uniformity and consistency of that mammary shape from when viewed from the side, and also the strength of the feet and legs today as a group than we see in our 5th place group. 5 over 6 for the depth, the maturity, the spring of rib, the frame that we have on these, and the body capacity in combination with more more uniform outer shape when viewed from the side comparatively to 6. Then 6/7, more uniformity in the height and width, security, and shape of those rear udders, the smoothness of blending of the rear udder, and T placement and strength of needle when viewed from behind. This doe at the end of the line, really, or these does at the end of the line at 7, certainly love the upstandingness that they have in those front end assembly as a pair, and they are to be commended for that. Thank you.
As we come back to the Toggenburg Award sponsors here today, the ones that we have trying to catch up with here, our dairy herd was sponsored by Deep Schmidt Dairy Goats. Produce a Dam, legendary by Anna Thompson Hygiene. Senior Get was Krista Matson with Marshall and Toggenburgs. Best 3 senior does was Rouse Toggenburgs, Charles and Joan Rao. Dam and daughter class, Ian Tires. So we appreciate all of our sponsors for each of these classes to help make the national show.
Right, so these are our Toggenburg Dam and Daughter, looking for a group that's both consistent, but we also want to see improvement from the dam to the daughter. This first place group just really caught our eye and came to the top pretty easily. We improved, we have consistency in type and style, the body shapes, the general appearance, the productivity of the mammary system, but we actually improved the general appearance, the smoothness of blending, and also the dairy strength. We improved in some sharpness and angularity throughout in the daughter, also having our reserve national champion in that group. 2 then over 3, just more uniform in their overall shape and dimension to those mammary systems, the upstandingness that they have in the front end assembly, and we see a pretty tremendous improvement from dam to daughter, fixing the angulation to rear leg, the strength of pastern, strength of back and top line, a little sharper, more angular in the daughter in this group. 3 then over 4 for the advantage that they have just in depth of body, width and spring of rib, the overall power that they have as a pair comparatively to 4. 4 over 5 for the overall capacity and width of those rear udders, the length and fullness and extension of those fore udders. Again, we had a pretty good improvement here. I believe this dam was somewhere about 4th or 5th in her class, and then up into first place class winner, a beautiful mammary system in the daughter. And again, having more improvement in that group and more uniformity in that group than 5 over 6. Just a little bit more capacity and productivity to those mammary systems, a little bit more sharpness and angularity in their dairiness, though they will yield to the length of back and the strength and power that we have in this 6th place group for which they are commended. Thank you.
All right, Toggenburg class, we need 1st and 2nd place udders to the ring. Toggenburg's 1st and 2nd place udders.
All right, so we've brought back out all of our first and second place memory systems in our Toggenburg Senior Show. A beautiful pair of yearlings here with a lot of area of attachment and capacity. They'll have their day someday later, but not quite the number of freshenings or maturity on these does to compete with some of the does ahead of them. Our 2-year-olds here, again, a lot of shape and capacity to these mammary systems, a lot of overall area of attachment. Again, not quite the depth of mammary system or maturity on these udders. Again, they're going to have their day in the future. When we look at this first place 3-year-old, our reserve national champion, just love the overall extreme height and width and shape when viewed from the side. Our 4-year-old falls in line very similar with that same type of mammary system, just extreme length and width and fullness of that forearm. Our first place 5 and 6-year-old, this is a 5-year-old with 5 lactations. Again, a really capacious mammary system, really beautiful from side profile with the overall shape and dimension that it has. And then we changed one of our first place animals here. This is our second place doe, but with first place mammary system, just so much capacity and correctness. This is, I believe, a 7-year-old doe with 7 lactations. Again, maintaining that mammary system high into the body wall. So for us, we kind of came to a pretty quick conclusion. We're going to have 4 does milk out this afternoon for our selection of Toggenburg Best Udder. That's going to be our first place 4-year-old, our grand champion, our first place 3-year-old, our reserve champion, our first place 5-year-old, and then our first place age doe, please. Thank you. All right, so we've brought back out each of the 4 does that we asked to milk out for our best udder and reserve best udder in our 2023 National Toggenburg Show. We have our reserve champion 3-year-old doe here, just tremendous capacity to that mammary system. It's milked down with beautiful texture. Our 4-year-old senior and grand national champion, again, tremendous capacity, especially just such an extreme but still balanced and correct fore udder on this doe, and the rear udder just tremendous, near ideal rear udder view on this doe. Has milked down exceptionally well and maintained its shape and correctness even milked out. Our 5-year-old doe here again had a lot of capacity and shape and balance, has milked out really well. And then our age doe here, 7-year-old with 7 lactations, again a really extremely beautiful rear udder with extreme width and capacity, the smoothest of blending that it had up into the arch of the escutcheon, beautiful T placement and delineation on her as well. We're going to stay with our senior champion. She's going to be best udder of breed. We felt that she just excelled each of the 3 does around her in that total area of udder capacity and attachment that she had, the shape and the balance and all of the correctness of that mammary system in combination with milking down just exceptionally well and maintaining all of that beautiful shape even now milked down and beautiful texture. It was a little closer for us for reserve best udder. The competition we felt just for maintaining their shape a little bit better than our 5-year-old now goes between our 7-year-old and our 3-year-old doe here. And for the overall extremity that she had in the width of rear udder, the smoothest of blending of that rear udder, the height into the escutcheon, in combination with the cleanliness and delineation of teeth, we're going to come up to this 7-year-old and she'll be reserve best udder. Congratulations.